Well, it's interesting, I set my Inspire unit at the air and I had one. There was a part of one arm was broken and one arm was we changed out all the parts to black rubber. Now so all the matches, it's the new style, it's like camouflage or whatever, rather than the little tight pattern. Well, I gave it to these guys, they sent it to LA.
I wrecked mine last weekend.
So I don't know if it would be.
Yeah, this is an I like it. I think so. I did a lot of research too. G4 silver. But they also make one now.
We just find we need to can't have one back. Okay, if I could have your attention, really gratified to see that everybody has stuck through the first part and the break, and it looks like we're just about as crowded as we were beforehand. Hopefully we haven't filled your ears with too much garbage or made your hair hurt here, and hopefully we're explaining things in a way that you understand it, because if I understand it, hopefully you will as well too. So why don't we go ahead and continue with the presentation here. So really, the real meat of this program is the post-flight processing. So these are a couple of screenshots from my Android. Okay, so this is a series of the images that I got. And then if you look at the images, you can see there's a lot of overlap on there. They're very consistently spaced. You know, the camera angle is about the, or the flight path is the same for all of those. Stuff you're really not going to be able to do if you're trying to hand fly a pattern like that. If you see on the right-hand side, you'll see a couple of icons. One is for uploading it to the Pix4D cloud, so they can do the quality checks on it. Another one, you can either upload the P4D file or the P4D file and all the images to a Dropbox account. Or you can email the P4D file. I don't know that it gives you the option to email all the images, because you could be talking a 200 megabyte email usually. Okay, so when I sent it into Pix4D, this is the email I got back. This said, "Dear Vertical Aspect, your mission's been processed. Here's a preview." So you get the ortho and the DSM. Now, before you get too excited, if you look at the file size in those, you probably can't see, but it's 290 kilobytes. So there's not a lot of data in there. It's a very low-res thumbnail. So if you think you're going to say, "Hey, I'll just send this in and I'll do business off of it," there's nowhere near enough data there to be able to do anything with. But it does give you an idea. Okay, I'm out in the field. Did I get a good enough flight to do this, or am I going to have to refly this thing again? If that looks good, and especially if you process it on a laptop and you got the initial quality report, you can rest assured that when you do the heavy-duty processing on it, it's going to work out for you. Okay, so 4 weeks ago when Gene Robinson was here after everybody left, Mark and I flew this mission, and this is the actual pattern that we flew that produced that image over there on the right. So you can see that I did not want to get too close to the road there. I basically just flew into the shadow on the edge of the building, and it gave me quite a bit of overlap there. Didn't go too far away from the building, but got quite a bit of overlap there as well too. So in this case, the fisheye type lens on the Vision really helps you, because it'll actually gather more information. The program's doing all the heavy lifting of pulling that distortion out and matching up the points too. One of the reasons we're so excited about the Inspire is because it does have the rectilinear lens. You don't have that fisheye effect. It is a better camera. It is a more robust platform. So we're real excited once they can get the ground station done by DJI, so at least we can fly a more consistent pattern, even with our GPS tracker on it. And then once but Pix4D is definitely planning on working an app for the Inspire as well too. If you're going to be spending $8,500 on a piece of software, it makes sense to put it on a $3,000 airframe rather than on the $1,100 airframe. Quality report. So when you do the initial processing, I'm not going to try to go through all this and tell you what all it is. There's a lot of check marks there, which is good. There's one triangle at the bottom which says I don't have any 3D ground control points in there. So I do have the 2D points that I got off of Google Earth. The 3D points would come from Mark there, but it gives you an idea of how solid your mesh is on the right, and basically green is good, and red and yellow is very little overlap. So you can see we're getting very little overlap in the corner, but we hadn't intended to. That really wasn't where the emission was flown. So a lot of good information in the initial quality report, and a lot of these things, even if there's a problem with them, there's stuff you can do about it. Like it says there's an issue with the camera calibration, you can go back and reprocess that as well too. So you've got to really goon it up pretty good to, if you've got the shots, to not be able to get something fairly useful out of it. Okay, the initial point cloud, this is this building here. These are the images that it actually took, okay? If we had this live, I could manipulate the thing, turn it 3D, and do all kinds of stuff with it. That's the initial point cloud. The purpose of the initial point cloud, as Mark continues to beat into my head, is not to be a pretty picture, it's to be able to give you points that, like when you're doing the ray cloud here, I did what I thought was the car, and you can see where these various points line up on the car. When you're actually calibrating all that, you'll put all the points actually on the same place, like the same corner of the bumper of the car. And you basically telling the program how to line itself up, giving the pictures some help in lining up.
All this is done on the demo version? Or this is on the real stuff? This is the
demo version.
No, the demo is the full version, but you only get it for 30 days.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. It's not to upload Pix4D Discovery. The demo is the full version of the software. They give it to you for 30 days. After that, it's either pony up or go home.
So the Pix4D Discovery, you're actually downloading the same program that you would for the Pro version. It just has certain features that aren't enabled in it. So my recommendation, I'll go ahead and talk about this now, would be download the app, download the Pix4D Discovery, play with it, get on the website, learn how to use the thing, and then when you're ready to start, and I believe it's a 30-day trial, they'll give you the Pro version for 30 days. By that time, you've already learned the basics of it, you've gotten a couple data sets, and then you can spend that time really getting into the ortho and the contours and all the rest of it. You've already got some data sets. There's some great data sets on the website as well too that you can play with as well too. But don't waste your clock on that 30-day. When I did it, it was a 7-day clock. Learn it first and then start it. Okay, the densified point cloud, and that is really actually what the ortho is made from.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, the Mosaic Match. Okay, so each of these different cells here represents, there was a different camera image taken each one of those cells. So you can see that the ones on the edge here are certainly, they're a lot different shapes than the ones that are closer to these. Were pointed almost straight down. These were, there was a lot of fisheye in here capturing those. If you look at this, you say, boy, that looks like crap. That building, the edges of that building are all over the place there. Well, that's the initial mesh there. So you can reset the mesh in there, Mark. And all you do is reset it. You can tell it how many up and down you want, and you can see without me doing a thing, it cleaned it up significantly. Okay. There's a lot of best practices on how you can go, and you can actually, if this cell doesn't look good, you can flip to a different image that has that particular cell in it. If it's too dark or too light, you can lighten it up and darken it. There's a lot of playing around you can do it. It's not as complicated as Photoshop, nowhere near, but there are some things that you can do. The program does a lot of the heavy lifting, but it does give you the control to do a lot of the tweaking yourself for a much better product.
90% of the time, don't ever use this. The only time I've used it is I flew my son-in-law and daughter's property, and before I was really into this noon, what I did now, I flew it at high noon, and they had a 7-acre lake on it. And there's like just burned out spots all over the lake. So I did a bunch of image switching out to get a nice image on it. You had a,
Yeah, this is just images, right? This is not cloud point stuff, right?
This is images, yes. Basically, from a surveying standpoint, you get two things that you would use for the surveyor. You get the ortho-rectified photo, which you can take measurements off of, put it behind AutoCAD or whatever, draw in the buildings, the parking lot, whatever you want to. You also get the 3D point cloud, which you can also take measurements on to like get the height of a building or get a profile along the center of a road. So you can get both of those. But with the point cloud, once you do your editing, get rid of your buildings and cars and everything else, then you get your DTM, which you use for building a surface in AutoCAD for doing your design work for roads, sewer, whatever you're going to do.
Yeah.
How versatile is the import and exporting of data? Say I wanted to bring this into Google or SketchUp, 3D Studio Max, work with it in background for compositing for, say, a movie or something like that. Is it
Well,
play really well?
the LAS file is pretty standard on almost everything. So you get your point cloud in LAS. It also has a lot of other options like PLY and OBJ. The images come out in TIFF. So the
GeoTIFF probably.
Yeah. You can actually get what they call it a GeoTIFF. I call it a grayscale. So if you took the GeoTIFF straight into ArcGIS, you could generate contours with it. So you can get to almost anything. But I generally use a program called Global Mapper.
Yeah, I use it.
It's a Swiss.
I love it.
Yeah, you know, you take that GeoTIFF that's 2 megabytes and knock it down to an ECW, you're way ahead of the game.
Yeah, consult for GA. That's correct.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
why don't you show them the blended mosaic? So you let the program do its thing, and that's what it came up with there. That was one flight, nothing special, just back and forth. That's a pretty darn good job of it.
And did you mention that over on the left-hand side, the edge of the building where it's a little bit kind of ragged looking, we didn't even fly over that end of the building. That it just took it from that. If we'd have flown over.
See, this is a much sharper edge here than this one is. You really didn't even capture that. That wasn't part of our point that we were trying to.
What time of day is better?
Pardon me?
What time of day is better?
Oh, it was right after Gene Robinson's thing. It was probably
Okay.
12:30, 1 o'clock or so.
If you're flying over water, fairly early, fairly late, get the sun angled off so you don't get the burnout hot spot in it. Today is a perfect flying day. Light
Got enough
winds
light.
and overcast.
It's also a lot easier keeping an eye on the aircraft rather than to squint into the sun. Okay, so these are other things that the contour in the DSM that it puts out, and you'll see the very familiar shape of the UAV direct building here. So these aren't marketing photos. This is right off of my. These are screenshots off of my PC, but you can also it'll create PDF files and other type of outputs as well too. I was just looking for a convenient way to put it into
Does a 3D
PowerPoint.
PDF, which I don't know what you use it for, but kind of interesting.
Okay, so Google Earth, we talked about the ground control points there. That's the Google Earth image. So I zoomed way in, and you know, like when I picked a ground control point, like I had picked this corner here, something that I could be able to pick up both on Google Earth and on my images as well too. So you'll see that that's not bad. I mean, you know, you can actually see the driveway, and you can see what it is. You can see the fairly good lines on the parking lot. But when you flip to the Pix 4D, look at the resolution that you got here. I mean, that can't begin to compare with that. So, I mean, you've got a camera that's a lot closer to the action. You've got something that you can fly the thing every day if you want. People understand Google Earth. Google Earth's got a lot of great utility, but really not from the engineers and the surveyors, other than from a very broad perspective here. And then I'm sorry, Mark, you want to go back? Yeah, it actually, you were talking about the outputs. It will output the KML file. All you have to do is double click on the KML file. It'll open up Google Earth, or Google Earth Pro, as you probably know now, is free. So all I had to do was double click on the KML file. It opened it up, it zoomed into this area, and it showed me what I had flown embedded in the Google Earth. I didn't have to do anything other than just double click on the KML file. Okay? Okay, so the app settings that I tend to use in the app, it'll go anywhere from 1 to 5 meters. I pick a midpoint of 3 meters. I really don't want the aircraft going too fast when it's going to stop at the end there. So I think 3 meters is a good midpoint there. But the application will take images faster. If you speed it up, it'll slow down how fast it takes the images if you end up going at 1 meter per second. 50 meters altitude is fixed in there right now. If you look in the iOS app, you'll see grayed out that there's an option to be able to change the altitude. It's not there yet. Okay, but it will be. But I think we found that 50 meters seems to be a pretty good altitude for doing that. Camera angle. Someone was talking to me about, hey, my camera's not pointing down. Well, did you set it for 90 degrees down? There is that option, I think, on the Android version of the app. On the iOS version, I think it automatically points it down anyhow. The reason you want to be able to control the angle is if you're doing a free formation, if you're doing the facade of the building, and you want to be sliding the aircraft left and right, it'll take a picture automatically every 3 meters, every 5 meters, however much you want, and it'll do that for you. Camera settings, I got into the DJI Vision app. I set it for the large file size. JPEG, I wouldn't do JPEG and RAW. I think it would probably choke the camera trying to do that RAW image as often as it is. You really don't need the RAW image. If you want to do RAW, I'd take it down to probably 1 meter per second, but I haven't played with it yet. But I would definitely slow it down if you think you want to do RAW for some reason. Okay, the ISO, I try to leave it at a fairly low value. I think it's only 100 through 400 in the app anyhow. The white balance I leave on auto, and I leave the exposure value at 0. And we did find to reformat the card every flight and keep your hands off of the screen when it's flying. And once you launch it, I don't even want to touch it. I feel very comfortable that it will get to be a more robust, there'll be less bugs in it. As a matter of fact, and I've got a slide on this, Pix4D is doing a webinar on March 19th where they're going to be talking again about these two apps. They may be bringing them out of beta, they're not sure. But the webinars are free to be able to sign up for. You can either watch them in real time or see them afterwards. After a week or so, they'll put the webinar up on their site. Yes?
Will you share these slides with UAV and?
I will end up putting these slides in a PDF version on the Vertical Aspect site.
Okay.
So if you'd like to go there and see them,
Thank you.
you're more than welcome to see them. Okay? The app is not an autopilot. It sure doesn't avoid obstacles. And those of you that have used the ground station, you don't fully trust the cruise control on your car. You're not going to fully trust this app too. You're the pilot in command. You've got to control this thing. Just like when it was coming down at the end of the flight, I told you it didn't necessarily come back at the same spot. Well, I wanted to get far enough away from the podium, but it was also pretty close to those weeds as well too. So all you have to do is flip the S1 switch down. I've talked to you a number of times about the fact they're in beta and about reformatting the card. Any other questions on this portion of the app?
Switch one down takes over?
Pardon me?
Switch one down takes over?
Yeah.
Pull it down. Right?
Yeah.
And if you
Actually,
throw it back up,
I just brought it down one.
if you throw it back up, does it continue?
It might. I'm not sure if it would go back into the mission or not. Once I get it down and I take control of it, I'm not pressing my luck anymore.
Is independent, that switch is dependent as well if it's in banner mode or Mazda, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm not sure how much Pix4D takes over that control of it as well too. This is the iOS app. You see it does not have the freeform mode that the Android app does. Okay. That's how you get them. You can just go to Google Play, look for Pix4D Mapper Capture, or on the Apple Store as well too. This is where you just go to Pix4D and you can do the download and get the Discovery app as well too. If you hit into the support section of the website, there's tons of videos and white papers and PDFs and all kinds of stuff. Someone was asking me about, I think you were asking me about the measurements and how good is. You'll actually be able to download the white paper, but I've got one of my slides as well. Okay. Okay. Other things. There's a lot of other uses for this program. This is one where they took a Canon camera. They just walked around at near ground level. I think again at Wasteland, then they took a couple pictures over the top there, the images, and they get a neat 3D model out of it. So you can actually restrict, you can cut the background out of it, so you've got a fully rotatable, zoomable model.
If you have a 3D printer, you can take a picture of your wife and make a 3D model of it.
Someone needs skills, you can share your
I'm not even, I'm just gonna shut up.
So the Pix 40 map is more of a gateway to the Pix 40 software.
Correct.
Correct, I mean,
So they're showing you what you can do, because you really can't do much just with it.
yeah, well, there's a lot of companies out there that'll give you the free iPhone app, but they're trying to drive you to their app as well.
The whole key to the deal is you have to have, in my opinion, autonomous flight, or something that will fly an accurate grid pattern, so you can get the overlap. And right now, the only things I know of are the higher-end drones for mapping, and this app that controls the. Now, I know there's the ground station, which Jeff can talk to. I've never used it, but you have to pick points in this. This, you get the box, it figures out what it needs to fly, and that's what you're going for, right there.
Even if you have the ground station, you're going to be guessing, okay, what does my spacing need to be to get the right overlap, depending on what altitude I'm at? How often do I need to take the pictures here? You're going to be doing an awful lot of trial and error.
There's a
rather
whole
than
lot
just-
of math in it.
Yes.
You can figure it out, but you still.
You're going to be spending a lot of time doing that,
Yeah.
you know, an app like this really takes a lot of that work out of it. So as we were playing with it with the Inspire, it was really just see, is it a proof of concept? What is that lens going to look like on this thing? Could we do any real work with it yet? At this point, I'd say until we get the app, or at least until you get the ground station, it's going to be pretty limited stuff. Maybe you could fly over one particular building or something, but you're not going to be able to do a whole heck of a lot of it with it yet. Yeah.
So, I mean, I came in kind of skeptical, but I've been looking at the Precision Hawk system, and I know this is a little off topic, but looking at, say, the cost of Pix 4D and the cost of what you're using the EV, which is basically a fraction or a third or a quarter of what the Precision Hawk system is. Do you know anything at all about the Precision Hawk system?
Which one is the Precision
It's
Hawk?
the guy's based out of University of Indiana. It's a fixed wing, you toss it, and then you can add all the sensors and lots of other stuff. But they also do cloud processing.
I don't keep up with all of them.
Right.
In my opinion, in the fixed wings, the EV's king of the hill right now. Whether they're going to stay there, I don't know. It's easy to transport. It's a well thought out system. You don't have to go through and pick out which pictures you want. I have a friend that's got the hobby route when I was getting into this. By the time he's set up, I've flown and gone home. So the whole key to it is getting the images and getting them geotagged. However you can get it the fastest way, it really doesn't matter. The thing that makes the Sense Fly nice is that it's a real compact, well thought out, great system, great autopilot. You don't have to do a lot of thinking, so even a stupid surveyor can throw it up in the air and get it flying.
That'll be great.
That being said, I put it in a tree, I've hit my car.
Yes.
Is DJI given any inclination as to when the Inspire is going to catch up?
I was talking to the guys here. I understand they're working on the ground station portion of it. But when we go to Pix 4D, we said, well, you know, when are you guys going to have the Inspire app? Well, we got to get the SDK from DJI yet. So, you know, as you know, I think DJI is really trying to get the Inspire, the basic firmware, nice and solid. Got a lot of people squawking out there. You know, $3,000 is a lot to spend on an aircraft when you're used to spending $1,000. But you know, it's all relative as well too. I think they're trying to keep the general users, satisfy the need for the general users right now. And I think the development on the ground station, it's one of those things that we all know is coming. DJI is not real forthcoming with just when things are going to be coming out. Pix 4D did say, hey, we'll have the iOS app around the end of December, and yeah, that's about when it came out. But they already had the DJI SDK by the time. Until they get the Inspire SDK, there's not a whole lot they can really do at this point.
To back up a little bit to the fixed wing, the fixed wing's a better tool for that. You can do the same thing with a $1,500 airplane and put up the stuff together if you want to yourself and get the open source software. What you're paying for on the other systems is convenience, use, and reliability. I think they're talking about getting into the fixed wing, but I think from a difference past, I can't talk about what they're gonna do here, but you don't have to spend a lot of money to get into it. The reason the not the DJI, but Pix did the app, I'm sure, is to try and get people into the Pix 4D app. I think there'll be other apps coming out before long, as soon as the iOS develop. You know, the first one I got, my wife gave me a, what the heck's that?
Parrot?
The Parrot for Christmas. Until she banned me from inside the house.
On the Bebop, you find the Bebop.
Well, no, I don't have the Bebop. But within like 3 or 4 months, there were like 10 different apps you could get on the iPhone. All of them did different things. This is first generation stuff. So it's going to do nothing but get better. Another slide?
Yep. Okay, someone was asking about the GoPro. Okay, obviously not geotagged images. They took 94 images, they walked around it. They got a pretty darn smooth pattern out of it, and they were able to get this 3D model of the fountain. And I could be able to do measurements off of this thing. It's a nice looking 3D image, model of the fountain. I'm not sure what all you can really do with it, other than it's pretty
But you
cool
could.
looking.
If you went out and got control points on it, you could do that. And architects love this kind of stuff.
How do you, you take the pictures and then what? You put it into Pix 4D and it does it for you?
Yep.
Without creating the Pix 4D file?
Yeah, if you're doing the P4D is needed when you're doing the straight down, the nadir app. Okay, with the geotagged images. There's another option in there where if you're using the freeform mode, you can do an oblique app, or you can do it where it's pointed directly at a facade or whatever else. They actually did one where they did a building where they flew around the building, so they got the 3D model, and then they tied that into a Canon camera on a stick, walking around the building. They even had a GoPro, I think. They walked from one end through it was a Royal Canadian Mounted Police Station or something. They walked through the building. I've got another great demo of a castle where I think they'd used LiDAR, they'd used the EV, they'd used the Phantom, they'd used Canon, they'd used manual surveying methods, had something like 9,000 images, and did this whole huge inside-outside of the Chiltern Castle in Switzerland. So there's a lot of capabilities to be able to, say, tie this to an aerial image as well using manual tie points, which is beyond the capability of this lecture here.
Right, now when you do something like this, do you still have to create a geo?
No, there's no geotagging in this. But you could tie this into, if you did, let's say this is the building. If you flew a regular mission over a building, you had a geotag, you had the model. Then you can fly the aircraft. You basically fly the aircraft from the ground up to the sky, and you're pointing the camera. So you're having some consistency in the images, so the program knows where to tie from the airborne to the ground. It'll tie it all together and give you a model using all of it.
Object VR is on steroids, basically.
Okay. I mean, it's some fairly heavy-duty stuff. There's a great webinar where Oliver Kuhn did it online using about 3 or 4 different data sets.
On that Pix 4D website?
Yeah. Yeah, if you go to support and then go to, I think, the Academy, it's got a bunch of videos. It's got all the webinars. They've done something like 15 webinars on it. They got 1 or 2 on using the capture app. Like I said, there's going to be another one March 19th, I think. Okay, next. Okay, accident reconstruction. I know there's been some talk about that, some interest, I think, from the Houston Police Department and possibly others. Whenever there's an accident, a fatal accident, they got to go survey the whole scene. They're closing down the roadway, taking a long time to do it. So this was an experiment they did where they got a couple vehicles, put a dummy out there, actually measured the different points with tape, and used the LiDAR as well too. And the results on the next page, I think. Okay, so there's your laser scanner point cloud. That's what you got. This is the Pix 4D point cloud. They used tape measure 1.7 meters for the truck height, 1.67 for the laser, and 1.7 for the Pix 4D. So they did that for a number of different points here. So pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah. I think we've already talked about all that.
We talked about the Inspire. I don't know much more I can say about the Inspire. I think we're really, Pix4D really hadn't done anything. Well, we've been talking to them about what we've been doing with it. So a couple of interesting data sets, didn't really feel we had time for here, especially. It's not quite ready for prime time. It's a great platform. We bought the platform to get real familiar with it and use it for other things, but we're excited about that outcome and being able to use it for that. Okay, so as far as the recommended hardware, just like anything, there's a minimum hardware and there's a recommended. The minimums are about half of that. What this program really likes to see is a nice fast CPU. It likes to see a lot of RAM. The more RAM is really a matter of, if you got a small data set, a 50 image data set, you don't need a ton of RAM. So when you start getting into the larger data sets where the RAM really comes in handy. Mark built up a server at home. He's got an i7, fairly high-end CPU. He put 32 gigs of RAM in it. He really went all out, put two 1 terabyte SSD drives in it. And another thing that helps is the video card. Your video card was what, about $400 or so?
Yeah, it sounds like I spent a lot of money. I bought a cheap Lenovo with a good processor. I added the memory, added the SSD, added the cards. I'm in there about $2,200.
Yeah.
And I've got a lower end video card, about $160, but it's I think it was at least 2 gigs. It's a CUDA card. When they came out with the version 1.3 of the software, it sped up the processing significantly. So it offloaded a lot of that processing to the GPU. So you don't have to have a real high-end machine. If you're doing video editing or really any heavy-duty photography work, it's a similar type of machine. There are points in the cycle, not the whole way through, where it'll eat up about 98% of your CPU. So you may not want to be running a bunch of other stuff at the same time. But you can break it up into stages. You can do the initial processing. If that looks good, then you can do the rest of the processing as well.
Now, you have an Apple. Have you tried doing it on the boot camp? Running the
It
Apple?
will run, last time I tried it, it will run on boot camp. It will not run on Parallels.
Right, no, I wouldn't run it on Parallels. That's just crazy.
Well, it did initially when I first got involved in it. It would run on it.
Oh, it would?
Yeah. I actually ran, I have an i7 MacBook Pro 17-inch. I did 699 images on a demo I did in Florida, and it took about 22 hours. That same one on the one that I built did it in about 3 hours.
That's also the buy-in going Apple, which is paying for the market.
There you go.
It's the same hardware.
Okay, next slide.
Windows half the price.
Okay, so the differences in between the two, and I'll admit I get a little bit confused at times. When I first started off, I started with the free version, and now we've got the full-blown version. But you do get that initial quality report that I showed you, and it does do it does the 3D and the video animation. Something I didn't show, I wanted to keep this presentation simple. You can do a 3D fly-through where you're capturing different points on the 3D image, and it'll actually turn it into a movie. So if you wanted to, like if you're doing a car dealership or something, you wanted to have a neat video of the thing flying through the dealership, whatever, you can do that with this thing. I just haven't shown that part of it, but that is, my understanding is you can get that with the discovery portion of it. So these are their words, not mine. And with the free trial, you basically get everything else. You get the ortho mosaic, the elevation model, the point cloud, the contour lines, the export capability, everything. So once again, I would if you're interested in doing this, download the apps, download the free trial of the discovery, play with it, get online, read up on it, study, and then when you're ready to pull the trigger on your pro trial, go ahead and give it a try.
For all you guys.
There's the details on the various versions. You can either get it, a month for $350, $3,500 for a year, or $8,700 for a one-time charge. Okay. You do get certainly the support for the first year. You can put it on 2 different computers. It's not cheap, but it does an awful lot. Really, when you're looking at You know, it's really the difference between hobbyist and are you really trying to make money with this thing? Are you?
What do they charge for an upgrade on that?
Well, if you,
On the pro version?
I believe it's around 10% per year for the maintenance.
They don't
So-
charge for an upgrade, you
For the
pay a
first
maintenance
year.
fee, so you get all the upgrades
All the
for
upgrades
that.
for free.
That's extortion fee.
Well, I mean, you know, once they've gotten their initial money for it, they're continuing to develop. If you're getting advantage of new and more capability, then paying the 10% per year from their perspective, I think it's, you know, it's a pretty fair deal. So, but you know, we're not saying this is for everyone. We're just saying this is the art of the possible. If you wanted to go out there and do it all on open source and play around with it, you could probably, you know, you could probably get at least part of the way there with it. But,
I send Esri a $3,000 a year check every year. It's part of the game.
So you can see we've done a lot of work with this. We've learned a lot from it. As good as the tutorials are, it really helps. Like, you know, Mark was showing me the other day how to actually measure the pole. I looked at the videos of it. There was nothing like actually having someone sit down with your hands on it. And so that's something, certainly for a one-time license, you know, we'll sit down and we'll provide a full day of training for you, probably anywhere within, you know, 200 miles of the San Antonio area. If you're looking at the, you know, the one-time rental or the monthly rental, then it'd be a less amount of support. But we believe in this product. We want to be able to help. We can't spend all of our time, you know, giving a full day of training to someone that's going to run it for a month, but we'll certainly do what we can. I mean, we put this together here to hopefully get more people understanding what the, not just the program, but really the capabilities. So you could apply this to other things as well too, but just kind of seeing what's, you know, some of the art of the possible is here. And we appreciate UAV Direct hosting on this. We've been to a number of the other Texas UAVers Saturday morning functions. We've always enjoyed them, learned a lot from it. And I hope you guys have learned something from this one as well too. I've got plenty of business cards up here. We'll be around for a while if you guys have any questions.
That was a shameless plug.
The